Samantha McKenzie, what is acoustico lighting?
Acoustico lighting as a product solves the problem of noisy spaces. So it's a range of acoustic wall and pendant lighting that absorbs sound in a space. So in education, hospitality, corporate environments, or even aged care environments, the sound is absorbed to create a calmer and more enjoyable space to be in.
And where did this idea come from?
It's a good question because it was actually a silver lining from an illness that I was emerging from, which left me quite noise and light sensitive. And so I was working as an interior designer at the time in commercial spaces. And I'd had a number of people asking me, how are we going to resolve this echo in a boardroom? Or how are we going to work with sound in an open plan seating area? And it was just something that came to me one day that I thought I really need to sort of look into the aesthetic acoustic market. And I did a little bit of research. There's a little bit around, but I just felt like that there was more to be done in the area.
And after that research piece, what were the next steps in making it more tangible?
Yeah, so the next steps were, starting to research exactly how sound does work in a room. I knew that I was, very sound sensitive, but I needed to actually work out how it was, sound bouncing. Sound works in waves and it bounces off surfaces, and obviously the harder the surface, the more it bounces around. So I did a lot of research into that. I then had to go and look at the materials that were the best materials that absorb the sound. And then the next step was really trying to put these materials into a format that look beautiful in form and in colour and texture. So that actually took quite a while, as well as finding collaborators of people that work with these materials, so that we could sort of construct. It's a 5-part process. So it took a bit of time, sort of pounding the industrial pavements of Melbourne, trying to find people to work with that had worked with these materials before.
I think most of our viewers would be always interested in learning from failure. Are there any interesting stories you have about any prototypes that didn't quite make it out of the workshop?
The first one, which I was so excited about, and it actually cost me quite a bit of money to prototype, was an absolute, complete and utter failure. It was really, really disappointing because I thought I was really just onto this amazing thing. It didn't deter me. It made me actually even more determined to go and find the right thing. But that did take a little while because it was a completely different material. So it was probably good because in actual fact, my second prototype and second material worked out to be so much better than the first one. But had you told me that at the time, I wouldn't have believed it.
What State Library's doing with StartSpace is just one support, I guess, in this startup and small business ecosystem. As a founder, what supports have you found to be vital during your journey?
Vital is family and friends. I've had a really supportive family and lots of great buddies who are, right behind me, which is fantastic. But as far as sort of more formal supports have gone, last year I did a program called Foundry 658, and that was a partnership with Creative Victoria, the State Library and Acme X. And that was a terrific program. There was 10 businesses and we were sort of all thrown in together, completely different businesses and industries, and all being creative, but in many different facets. And we had mentoring support, we had some terrific financial support, but also the support and the camaraderie of the fellow participants was incredible. And then I've also had support from RMIT and the City of Melbourne along the way as well. So there's a lot of support out there. Just got to look for it, I suppose.
Yeah, and during this period, I guess there's a lot of people also like starting new supports for the various industries that are facing quite tough circumstances at present. But on a more positive note, as what are you looking forward to most as your business, as society re-emerges out of this time?
Yeah, look, I think there are some really exciting things to happen, to come out of this. I, in going back home to work, spent the first week sort of panicking a little bit because within about a 48-hour period, 75% of my business was cancelled or put on hold. So it was a little moment of panic, and then sort of started emerging some ideas of looking at design from, past eras of austerity and recession. And it sort of became apparent to me that in those periods, people have designed sort of more minimalistic sort of products and more monolithic and almost brutal products, or architecture has been almost brutal, which I really like, that style of architecture. So I've been able to go back to the drawing board, and not that I've prototyped it yet, but I've been doing lots of research into new materials, and I've got a few new ideas for another range. So what I'm looking forward to getting out of this at the other end is hopefully being able to promote a new range. And the most exciting thing, I think, is that I'm really hoping Australians will be compelled to buy Australian. I think, architects and designers have been really great at specifying Australian-made products more recently, but I do think this will filter through to the end user, and I think people will be asking for Australian-made materials. I've already had that experience. I've already had a client ring me and say we were going to get, these expensive Italian beautiful light fittings, but now we're looking more internally and we'd like to source something from within Australia. So look, I'm really hoping that will be the norm, because I think it's important, and it's also a really big value of acoustico lighting. So environmentally conscious and accredited materials, as well as the Australian made part. And that's where I began the business, and they're my values. So I'm really hoping everyone sort of joins in for the ride.
And just finally, if you could just paint a quick picture of what work looks like for you at present, and any tips that you've gleaned from effective working from home.
Okay. Well, I'm very lucky. I've got 3 children at home. So it's been, I'm sharing this home office with the 12-year-old at the moment. Not right at the moment. And then another couple, in other parts of the house, which, has been good and bad. We've had our moments, but my tips would be, well, pretty much my routine is going for a big, long walk every morning, and then getting the kids up and getting into the day. And look, as far as tips are concerned, I don't know that I've got more than just, keep fit, look after yourself mentally, physically, and try and get through it as best you can. School's back soon.
That's all we can do. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll pop down some details so people can get in touch if they're interested. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Terrific. Thanks, Dan.